Welcome to There is a Method to the Madness. My name is Maxwell. I'm an exercise physiologist and personal trainer. I'm the owner of Maxwell's fitness programs, and I've been in business since 1994. The purpose of this podcast is to get to the real deal of what really works, and most importantly, why things work. Hence the name, There is a Method to the Madness. Today, I'm going to talk about setting some good habits and getting into better routines. Before I get to that, let me thank Jonathan and Lynn Gilden of the Gilden Group at Realty Pros. They are committed to providing the highest level of customer service. They have the sales and the reviews to back that up. Why don't you give them a shout and figure out what your home is worth? 386-451-2412. All right, so we're getting a little bit closer to the end of the year. When you hear this, it should be on the 16th, or that's when it pops out actually, so December 16th. So we're getting there. And what do a lot of people do? They set those New Year's resolutions, right? And if you follow at all any kind of behavioral science, you know that most people don't stick to those resolutions. Not that it's necessarily a bad thing to have some goals and to be thinking about what you want to do a little bit better and some habits you can establish. Of course, that's not a bad thing, but how do we do it a little bit better? You know, from the time I started studying health and fitness, and I have to go way back before I had my formal education, like before I started even working on my bachelor's degree. When I was just really starting to get into working out, and I was doing more like bodybuilding style workouts down at this old gym down in New Smyrna. And I knew I needed to eat to kind of promote the gains and all. So I was really starting to develop a good habit. Like, we're talking way back then. And so that's well before I ever even thought about going into business as a personal trainer, becoming formally educated. But I was already starting to learn what it was all about. And the people who went before me, who wrote books about health and fitness, who lectured on health and fitness, who wrote articles on health and fitness, and this was long before the days of podcasts or internet or any of that, they talked about lifestyle changes versus diets, lifestyle changes versus training for something for a short period of time. For example, your high school reunion or a wedding. It was all about lifestyle changes. So we've known for a really, really long time in behavioral science the better way to frame things, to put things. And that's really what it is all about more than anything else, is a lifestyle change. Like, if you don't love it, if you don't learn how to love it, you're probably not going to stick to it. And if you learn how to really find the lifestyle that you're looking for and you really, really like it and you stick to it and you stick to it and you stick to it, well, the outcomes are going to happen just naturally. But the key isn't so much to look for those outcomes as much as it is to try to establish the better lifestyle that you're seeking. I heard a quote today that I really, really liked, and what they said was, it is far more impressive to have a record of running 3 times a week for a decade, for 10 years, than it is to have said you run a marathon or you ran a marathon. Now, I think that is so true and so wise and really thought-provoking that I want to talk about that a little bit. And it's kind of funny because this comes on the heels of one of the people who I train, and she works at the gym sometimes, Angelica. So she did a ultra marathon yesterday, which what K was it? The 50K. So that's a little bit over 31 miles. So that's a great accomplishment. She was second overall, and just doing one of those is incredible. So that comment about a decade of running be more valuable than a marathon isn't supposed to take away from that. It's supposed to really magnify what is most important. So the only way we can really reach those milestones in running is to look back and go, well, what has their habits been over the course of time? Now, I think one of the better things that she has actually accomplished, and she's had a pretty good, if not a really good, if not an excellent running career. There's been great marathon times, great 5K times, there's been wins, there's been all these types of things. But if one of the things I was thinking about is, man, she has run pretty consistently. I mean, really consistently for the past 13 or 14 years that I've known her. She had a little bit of time off earlier this year. It was actually almost at this point last year in December when she was doing a trail run that I happened to do yesterday and broke her ankle, and that put her out for about 6 weeks to 8 weeks. And then she was able to put it together and train for a marathon a few weeks after that, which was incredible. But outside of breaking an ankle, she's had a really good run of consistent running. So that's the most impressive thing. And not everybody does. I mean, if you look at running, for example, there's a lot of start and stops. Some of it is people lose motivation and just get away from it. Yeah, that's fine as long as you replace it with something else, in my opinion. But then some of it is just overuse injuries. I mean, I know so many people that can't stay healthy with their running. And I shouldn't say can't. They can, they just choose not to. They would rather just continue to push the envelope more. They don't listen to their body. And then they get hurt. They can't train. And as I've always said, you can't get faster if you're not running. If you're not doing your thing because you're hurt, you're not going to get better. So that's not very impressive to say, well, you had this great race, this great PR accomplishment for you. You did this great event that you've been training for a really long time for. It was on your bucket list, but you got so beat up doing it or so burned out doing it that you ended up not having an active lifestyle after that. That's not really a win, in my opinion, even if you took home the trophy that day. Unfortunately, they don't give medals to people for being consistent day in and day out with nobody knowing it. But the true win is in that, because you really will reap the benefits of that healthy lifestyle. But it's not rewarded, right? Just like the guy or gal who eats healthy almost all of the time, like more often than not, they are eating healthy. So because they're eating healthy and they're eating within their means, they're not gaining weight. They're just staying nice and consistently fit year in and year out. You don't see that on the news because you're going to see only the person who lost X amount of weight on the news. So it's just not like glamorous to point out the consistency in people, even though it's the consistency that really counts. Like, that's the thing. How can you have less 0 days? How can you say to yourself, whether it's fitness, whether it's eating better, whether it's better wellness techniques, whatever, because, I can go in a million directions, but this show is about health and fitness. So how do you have less 0 days? Meaning, how do you have less days where you just didn't exercise because it had to be perfect? It had to be the exact way that you needed it to be. So you did absolutely nothing. I mean, how do you eliminate that and simply make it a lifestyle instead? I mean, I can think of examples for me, and I'm very fortunate, grateful, happy, proud, whatever you want to say. I mean, all of those things to say that I'm very consistent with exercise and eating right. It is absolutely a part of my lifestyle, a very important part of my lifestyle. I've had days where I had to work and had to catch a flight because I was traveling. So my hours to exercise that day were few and far in between. But you know what? I'm thinking of like 2 or 3 examples where I did this. I did not want to have a 0 day. So instead, once I got to the airport, because we all know we have to get to the airport a little earlier than we really need to, depending on the airport you go to. If you go to Daytona, that's less of an issue. They're great. You get in, you get out. But other airports, you tend to have to get there a lot earlier. So I told myself, all right, I don't have time this morning. I have clients I've got to see because I'm going out of town. And when I'm out of town, they're not going to get the workouts in. So I got to squeeze these in. So I got to the airport and I walked and I walked and I walked and I paced and I paced. Is it like the best workout in the world? Nope. But you know what? It's a heck of a lot better than 0. I got in a lot of steps, and when I was walking, I might decide to lean on a wall for a second and stretch my quads, whatever. I made use of the downtime to get something in so I didn't have a 0 day. So how can you get into the lifestyle? Do you want to be the person that doesn't miss workouts and eats right more times than they don't? Do you want to be that? I would guess so, because that's going to bring the results that you're most likely looking for. Like, most people want to be leaner or they want to be lean. Most people want to have more muscle tone or they want to be toned. Like, they want the now. They want to be the thing that they want to be. But how often do they really want to say they're the verb? How often do they want to do the work? How often do they say, I'm going to do something today as a positive contribution towards this, whatever that is? And I think if we make it our lifestyle versus this short-term fix of beginning January 1st, I'm going to get on this routine and I'm going to lose 30 pounds by the end of the first quarter. Great. Like I said, if it motivates you, great. But how often does that work? Most of the time, people don't hit those goals. And then the ones that do typically don't keep it off because it's a resolution versus a lifestyle change. Instead, say, I want to go through this upcoming year and be a slightly different person than I am today in regards to my health, my fitness, and my wellness routines. I want to be able to say that I had worked out almost every day in some way, shape, or form. I want to be able to say that I ate good more times than I didn't. Never ate perfect once, and I didn't eat horrible once. I just ate good more times than I didn't throughout the year. That I made sure that my health and my fitness and my wellness was my priority. Like, that would be the key. How do you do that? Like, how do you like it enough where you're not always thinking about the end, but you're thinking about the means? Like, how do you like it enough? Are you maybe feeling compelled to do certain exercise that you don't like? Like maybe you lack some flexibility. I can relate to that. And so you think, what? I really need yoga for me. What if you hate yoga? I don't. I think it's great. I don't do it because I honestly don't have time. So I take care of that aspect of my fitness doing other things. I shouldn't say I don't have time. I don't make time. It's not a big enough priority for me. I think it's great. It's just not always for me. But how do you figure out what is? Like, how do you figure it out that, there's no perfect way to exercise and there's no perfect way to eat. So what are the better ways for you that you can go, I really like that. Like, my friend's been doing this, and every time I've gone on long walks with her or him, I've really enjoyed it. Okay, well, there you go. Like, maybe you found a niche. Maybe that is it for you. So how do you figure out how to start to develop healthy lifestyles to where when you get to this point next year, you're not starting over again, or you're not looking for something fresh. You're actually just saying, man, that was pretty cool. I had a really good, consistent year. Because you know what? longevity speaks volumes. If you've been doing something for a really long period of time, chances are you are reaping the benefits to that. And too often we do not give enough credit to like the lifetime achievement awards, which tend to be so much more valuable than the flash in the pan awards. Somebody might like reach these fitness accomplishments in a year, and you're like, man, that guy or girl is jacked, or man, they did this and they did that. I mean, that's awesome. But like, I look at the people that are older that have been doing it for so long and they've stayed fit and they're consistent. I mean, life is a marathon, and that's the true hard part right there. How do you stick with it? How do you be consistent? How do you become a person of longevity with it? I mean, for me, it was easy. I fell in love with exercise, strength training, running, jogging, cardio, all of it. I like it all. So it's easy. How do you figure that out for you? All right. Now let's figure out how to buy the best garage door in Daytona Beach, which happens to be overhead door of Daytona Beach. Jeff and Zach Hawk are friends of mine. They're sponsors, they're clients. They're just great individuals who are going to provide for you the best garage door with the most important part, the best customer service. Check them out, overheaddordaytona.com.